Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we're going to be going over the Hall of Fame episode for the Celestial Conflux Ignite Frostclaw Elemental Nova Sorcerer. So, the original concept of this build was to utilize Frostclaw to spam as many Elemental Novas as possible and to abuse the nodes inside Elemental Nova that give Elemental Nova an insane amount of Ignite duration and Ignite chance. So, this original build was one I played right before the patch. And there was a few bugs involved in that build, which we're going to be updating it today. And thankfully, Pokerkid did all the hard work for me. Pokerkid, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Pokerkid, and I've been playing Last Epoch for, I want to say, about 2 years now. I started back in 0.85, I believe, and been playing for a while. And just recently, I checked out Dread's Ignite Conflux Sorcerer build back in 0.9, and I decided kind of like to remake it and rework it in my own vision and kind of like test out the new changes that were made in the 1.0 patch.
So,
So
do you
yeah,
want to go over the changes that specifically made this build significantly better?
sure. So the first change that made the build way better was on the original 1.0 patch was to Frostclaw. The first thing they did is that they changed the two nodes, which is first was On Through the Snow, which is the second cast after you cast Frostclaw, and the other one was Ever Onward, which was the third cast after the second cast. And both of these were reduced in mana cost by 2. And then the next thing they did is that they changed Gift of Winter, which is the node that reduces mana cost and gives you a chance to gain mana when you cast it. They tripled the chance to gain mana from 12% to 36%. And this basically allowed the build to function without having to use the gimmicky teleport meteor refund sort of strategy you did before. So it made the build feel way smoother and freed up a skill specialization slot for a different skill. And I ended up using Frostwall as a replacement, as it helped both my damage and gave me utility and other things.
So, do you want to go over the bug fix that made this build significantly better?
Oh yeah, so the bug fix, that interestingly enough, I did play this before the AoE bug fix to Elemental Nova, and it was all right. It was still good, but I believe it was in patch 1.01. They added a quick noted bug fix in where Elemental Nova now properly scaled with area of effect. So now all of the elemental novas that would like pop out of the frost claws would actually start overlapping properly and actually hitting
Yeah, so
like
the
the target.
AoEs, they were scaling visually but not physically. And this was a problem apparently last patch too, because I was doing significantly less damage than what Poker Kid is doing now last patch when I was playing the build. And I'm pretty sure that is because of that problem. And I'm sure that that problem has just been in the game for a long time now. And we just haven't known until now. So, other than that, so how much damage are you pumping out of the build now?
um, quite a lot more. On the dummy, I was able to test using both like meteor and frostball like combined. I was able to hit a little bit over 1,000,000 dots per tick on the dummy, which was quite good. Now it also kind of depends on how large the enemy is. For example, on the big Necro Dragon boss, because you can hit like every single Nova, no matter where it comes from on the Frostclaw, you can easily like hit even like more damage than that. And yeah, I was kind of surprised how fast that boss kind of melted to ignite out of all things.
Well, yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense considering you're actually hitting the dragon properly now.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of it just not doing anything and just being there all flashy.
So do you want to just explain the build real quick for anyone that's new that's watching? By the way, if you want to understand the build in detail, the old build video that I made will still be up to date for the most part, but this will be an update to that build video. So if you want to like learn the build, I would heavily suggest watching that video before watching this one. So that will be linked down below. But go ahead and explain the build for dummies here.
So sure. So this is an a sorcerer build utilizing the node on Frostclaw called Celestial Conflux. And this node basically makes it so every time your Frostclaw reaches the target, so like when it makes that little splash on the ground, it has a chance to trigger Elemental Nova. And basically, what this build does is that we try to trigger Elemental Nova using this node by making it so the cast on Frostclaw repeats multiple times. So on the bottom left of the tree, we have nodes that make it so it double casts, triple casts, and then like basically quintuple casts at the very end. So every cast of Frostclaw makes it so Elemental Nova has has 5 chances to proc.
Yep.
We use that along with, of course, the Elemental Nova tree itself, and we take a very special node called Infernal Nova. And this basically what it does is makes Elemental Nova absolutely massive by increasing area, but it puts it on a cooldown. Thankfully, this cooldown is completely bypassed by Frostclaw. Whether that's intended or not, I'm not 100%
By the
sure,
way, I
but
will add
yeah.
that this is not a bug. This is the intended behavior. Now, whether or not it stays the intended behavior or not, we will see. But there has been a very large precedent of late where there have been things where things can proc and not put the skill on cooldown. So, like for instance, Chaos Bolt recently can cast Bone Curse on cooldown, even if Bone Curse is on cooldown, right? Uh,
Okay.
so
Okay.
this is intended behavior. Whether or not it should remain so, we'll see. But still,
Yeah, I was never sure myself based off
yeah,
that, but I
yeah.
guess if they would have changed it by now if it wasn't intended, well, who
Yeah,
knows?
because it's the same thing with, like, Ice Barrage and all that, like, it seems to be just the idea moving forward seems to be the normal case, unless it specifies otherwise, because it will literally say puts it on a cooldown. So, like, for instance, there's a node inside, I think, one of the Falconer skills that puts Smoke Bomb on cooldown or something like that. It's stuff like that, but essentially this is intended, whether or not it will remain so. Now, you want to explain why we are a sorcerer instead of a rune master for the class here?
That's a very good question, and if you played this on a Rune Master, I wouldn't entirely blame you. I think Rune Master might have some advantages over Sorcerer, but I think Sorcerer is slightly better simply due to the fact that it has 2 nodes on its passive tree on the second half that increases the duration of Ignite up to, I believe it's 56%. Yeah, 56% total from 2 nodes. So that's like a big reason we want to go Sorcerer because it's a gigantic damage buff for Ignite, as getting Ignite duration is pretty difficult for most builds in general, and it's just kind of helpful for us to increase our overall DPS.
And we get access to Meteor, right?
Oh yeah, and that too. Meteor is also a big reason why we take this, um, because Meteor has a node on it. It's on the very bottom left, or not on the bottom left, but like from the starting point. That gives us a buff called Craterborn, which gives us both 75% fire pen and 15% cast speed, which is absolutely massive for an Ignite build like this.
Yeah, it's definitely visually pleasing. So I see that you've made some changes to the build. What changes did you specifically make other than the change to on through the snow and like the teleporting stuff and all that? Like what other changes did you make to the
I made quite a few changes. One of the first things I did was I replaced the Calamity that was in the original build with a Crest of Unity. I think this helmet is just absolutely like an insane stat stick for
Mhm.
any Elemental Nova build. It's ridiculous. We get like up to +5 or +6 Elemental Novas, of course, depending on the role. We get increased area. We get Elemental penetration per total Elemental resistance. And on top, we get up to 18% less damage taken from Ignited, Shocked, or Chilled enemies, which is a huge defensive boon for us.
Yeah, I just
Um,
want to let the viewers know the reason why I used the Calamity was the 1.0 was coming around and I had a 4 LP Calamity rolling around. So I was just like, screw it, I'm going to use it, right? But definitely Crescent Unity was in my mind. So what happened was Um, I didn't feel like I had enough damage on the old build, so I went with a Calamity instead because Calamity is a little bit more damage. But the problem is, that was the bugged version of the build that didn't actually do that much damage. So Crest of Unity is definitely significantly better now.
Yeah, I also think Crest Unity is better now because now we have like Merchants Guild and even kind of
Yeah.
COF. Getting a good LP Crest of Unity in like 0.9 was just hell. Because of the huge roll variance between like elemental nova levels and
Yeah.
less damage
Just
taken.
for reference, I play a lot and I never got one, so like a good one.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. So I definitely think for this build, getting at least like a 1 LP Crest Unity and trying to hit a +4 Ellie Nova or +3 Ellie Nova is gonna like spike your damage like crazy. It's so powerful.
let's be real. The only reason you're using it is because it's visually cancer, right?
True, true. So I really enjoy the RGB light shows that come with this. It does totally destroy your frames, by the way. Anyone with a bad computer, you will probably be running the game at like 2 FPS with all the shit that goes on screen.
Yeah, probably should have a better computer before deciding to play this build. We do not condone you burning down your own computer.
Yeah, we do not hold any responsibility for any computers that might be lit ablaze from playing this build.
Which is kind of funny because I'm watching through the gameplay and you only ever hit down to like 40 FPS. Have you gotten any lower, or is it like
Uh,
specific maps, or
it depends on the map and it depends on how much the game's memory leak has like affected. Like, if I try to play this build for like more than an hour, the game really starts to chug. I've had moments where the game has just froze for like 4 or 5 seconds straight until it like unfreezes. Um, it can
yeah?
get pretty bad sometimes, unfortunately, but I think this is definitely a build that if it stays the way it is now, that'll get better over time if they, optimize the game.
I mean, the idea here is we just spam the screen so much that you just don't have to worry about dodging.
True, exactly. And that's exactly why we make the build very, very tanky as well.
Yep.
Um,
And that's what through the Twisted Heart setup that I had last time. Also, by the way, the Twisted Heart nerf, how did that feel?
it was actually a benefit, funny enough. Or not, I wouldn't say a benefit, but it was like
A side
not as
grade?
negative. It was kind of a side grade, yeah. So what it kind of did is because we're putting out so much more damage now, we don't have to run a bleeding heart
Yep, like I used to. Yep.
compared to last patch because like the 1.5% like fire leech is more than enough.
Yeah. I
And
can
funny
definitely see
enough,
that.
in like running in modos and doing boss fights, you might see like my health kind of like ping pong a lot, like between like maybe full health to 50% health to 70%
That's
health.
because things aren't surviving long enough for you to leave from
Long
them.
enough, true,
Yeah.
but it's actually helps our survivability because of the passive node on the base mage
Yeah.
tree, the
Yeah, that
the
node is
reactive ward.
it's
Like if we're
insane. I love
constantly
that
ping
node.
ponging, we're gaining benefits from the
Yeah.
dragon heart
HP
and
stack in
from
Sorc has
this
never
passive
been
node.
better, definitely. It has never
Yeah,
been better. So good. I
it
know.
it
It's
just
great.
like we know we're getting up to like boss fights, we're getting up to 10k, 12k ward, and monos we can
It's
like kind of
after the
vary
nerf, by
depending
the
on the map,
way.
but
After the
yeah,
nerf.
nerf
Yeah.
after nerf by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after the nerf. It's like, Twisted Heart, oh, it's not an OP item. Like, oh, ooh, uh-huh,
yeah,
totally.
no, it's still ridiculous. Like it gives us so much between like the free strength, the cast speed, the elemental spells. Like it's just an insane item still.
Perfect. Well, are you still using the -4 scepter mana cost? I haven't looked.
Yeah, so I'm using actually a benefit of Merchant's Guild, by the way. I'm standing Merchant's Guild over
4
here.
LP, like
Um,
Firestar's Torch is like
you buy a starter's
500K, by
torch.
the
I
way.
I
Yeah.
picked this up for 200k on the
Oh
market.
my goodness, you fiend.
It was disgusting. Like a high roll, more damage, fire damage modifier, and able to get 4 LP, and I was able to eventually just snipe a -5 spell mana cost for like something dirt cheap. I think like 50 or 60k.
You
Rolled on it.
absolute fiend.
Yeah, I rolled on it, and it just got this beautiful piece right here. Um,
Perfect.
it's it. I'll say for the build, you don't need like tier 7 mana cost. I would try to at least go for tier 6, and obviously you don't need everything else on here other than the mana cost. But again, the main MVP for what made this build really playable was the increased chance to get mana per cast. that alone just made it
Yeah.
way smoother than any sort of minus mana
Which is
cost.
weird because, like, the old I didn't feel like we needed it, you know what I mean? Like, sure, don't get me wrong, it's amazing now, but, like, I never felt like as though Frostclaw needed buffed.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting. I feel like they saw your build and they're like, we want to make this like a thing without having to do the whole teleport meteor gimmick, and then they
Yeah,
did that.
Judd saw my build and he was like, "Screw it, I want this, but better." That's
Better,
definitely what
yeah,
happened. All
yeah,
right,
for
well,
sure.
Mr. Poker Kid, thank you for coming on. Thank you for showing your work. Thank you for updating my build to 1.0 as it saves me a lot of time and effort. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. It was great being here, and yeah, this is definitely one of the most fun builds I've played for 1.0.
And
So
a
especially
sorcerer to
a
beat. And a sorcerer
yeah,
on
yeah,
top of that.
playing off meta. Let's go. No,
Yeah.
no falconer, no warlock, no cheese. Just pure screen cancer. That's all
Thank
we
you.
need.
All right. Well, with all that being said, if you haven't already, I'd heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. If you want to see the basics of this build to understand what's going on, I would heavily suggest checking out the video down below and then upgrading into this version once you understand what's going on. All those links will be down in the description. With all that being said, this has been Dread. Off to go do something else. Thanks for coming on, Poker Kid.